I was also asked when I came in what was kind of the most shocking secret I'd received. And having received 1 million, there are some that grab your heart, that make you tear up a little bit, that can be shocking. For me, the most painful secrets I see are the ones that come from young people sharing a secret that no young person should ever have to carry. I got one from a high school student who said, "Whenever my friends at school complain about their moms and how bitchy they are, I joke around and talk too, but really I would give my right arm just to have my mom still around." So just a simple secret like that gives you a peek of empathy into this young person's heart in a way that it's almost like a little graphic haiku that just connects people, like an empathy delivery device. Now, the secret that got me the most email responses in a negative way, these usually involve pets. And so this was a secret that said, in order to see the cute veterinarian again, I gave my cat a little bit of poison. Yeah, that's usually the response that secret got. And that gave me all kinds of emails in response. And I have to say so many times, you know, I just received the secrets, I don't necessarily endorse them. But sitting up here with Morley, with you all this evening, is such a pleasure. This is the first time we've met, but we've known of each other, and we've communicated a lot over the months, maybe years even. And it's pretty exciting now how the web, how this digital network can connect people through their projects of passion. I think we both were excited when we saw the work that each of us was doing online. And then we had the opportunity to reach out, and we kind of already met through the internet that had brought our work together. And the more we talked, I think the more similarities we found in our kind of life course and the work that we do. I grew up in LA. I did graffiti in LA. Nothing in the range of what you do, but I spray painted some Talking Heads lyrics on my junior college wall where I went, and I created this piece of graphic art as kind of a holiday card for my girlfriend, now wife, that I took her to see. And I know kind of how lonely any big city can be, really, but especially LA. It's kind of an interesting place. It's a desert that's kind of meant to be something else, and it draws people from all over the world who are trying to remake their lives, and some have very inspirational stories, but for others it can be a very lonely place. And so to see these signs of hope and like interior dialogue and monologue, a last testament, a joke, seeing something that makes you reflect and find more respect for that still small voice that might be happening within your world that you've been ignoring. It was a real inspiration. And the idea, just hearing you read from the book about how you kind of are sending these messages out there, just letting them go, almost like messages in a bottle. I thought about a similar art project that I worked on before Post Secret, where I created postcards and put them in bottles and threw them in the Copper Lake to be discovered just as whatever. I thought of it as art, but who knows what people discovering it would think of it as. You kind of had to make up your own mind. And what happened was people discovered them and then reported them, and it was a big story in the Washington Post, these mysterious bottles, where were they coming from? It got picked up on UPI. But the idea was kind of the same, just sending out a voice, just sending out a signal and seeing what comes back. And both of us, I think, because of the nature of the work, but also because of the internet, got very lucky in finding an audience that reached far beyond what we could have done 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
Post Secret started as an art project in Maryland, in Washington, D.C., and it had a good reach. But that reach increased exponentially because of the possibility of the web. The fact that the web, for me, functions like a printing press. A printing press that allows me to reach millions of people for free. That's never been possible in the history of humankind, and it unleashes ideas, jokes, powerful things that I think we're just starting to grapple with now. But it also gives kind of individuals, kind of artistic entrepreneurs, the opportunity to really find their audience in a way that I know for you and for me brings the literary agent brings the publisher to us. We've kind of bypassed that gateway altogether. So maybe my question to you along these same lines is, what was it like making the transition from the work you were doing and then sharing it on the web, and how that took you to a whole nother place? And then that next transition from having a presence on the web and a community, an audience, and then from there going to publishing a book.
Well, that's a great question, and thank you. For me, I think what the internet did was, because the nature of street art is it's so temporary. It's so, you put something up, and then it's gone maybe in an hour, maybe in a day, maybe in a month, if you're lucky, or someone draws on it and it becomes something that is the communication that you think is sort of, one-sided can become multiple-sided. People can draw on it, people can, change it as they wish, but sort of putting it out there as you sort of initially birth it into the world is a very temporary thing before something happens to it. And so for me, it was the fact that I could take a photograph of something that only lasted a day, but if I put it on the internet, it could last months and years, and people would spread it around and send it to different people, and so it suddenly created this way of that I hadn't considered when I first started putting my stuff up. Because when I first started putting my stuff up, I didn't even take pictures of it necessarily, and I had actually started in New York when I was in school, just by silk screening different slogans that I would have onto contact paper, and then I would put them up around the subway and stuff like that. And so it was just like a hobby, that's something I just did for fun. And then when I moved out to Los Angeles, it sort of evolved from there. But yeah, at the time, it really the main thing was it was all about putting it up and then kind of never thinking about it again, because the idea of creating something without there being not only permission, but also no critique, no one rejecting it, no one saying like, that's stupid, and so when I started taking photographs and putting it online, I started getting feedback, and that was its own sort of nerve-wracking experience, because all of a sudden I was inviting people to respond to it in a way that I hadn't been before, or at least that I hadn't been aware of before. I was happily surprised by the positive response from people, and I was also happy that that again, it increased the longevity, it increased the lifespan of these pieces, and so that's when I sort of really started taking photographs of my pieces as I would put them up, and then I just found myself with a huge collection of these, and then so when I started sort of putting together a book, because for me the other thing was that in a gallery, my work, I feel like, doesn't necessarily have the same kind of strength that I think it does on the street. Because, for example, one of the posters I have is I promise you, you're not just a waitress. And you put that out, and maybe someone who's living in Los Angeles and struggling to be an actress or a musician or something, coming off of a hard day at work, she sees that, and maybe it's really encouraging to her. Now you put that in a gallery, and it's on a canvas that she might not be able to afford, and it's also just a sort of more sterile environment. It changes the context, and I think thus changes the message. So for me, the reason that the book appealed to me so much was I could contain the context in there. People could see the stuff on the street. They could see it with people walking by. They could see it sort of interacting in the environment that I think gives it its significance. And so for me, this was the most pure way of being able to capture my art and give it to an audience that can then see it in the sort of situation I had wanted them to see, as opposed to like in a gallery of some kind. Not that I have any problem with galleries necessarily, I just think it changes it.
So it's the same.